I'm looking for Tracer Tong. It is urgent that I find him.
Those elements mixed together is definitely like a sauce.
What?
Icarus! Hey, welcome back to the Game Dungeon. Today we're looking at Deus Ex Human Revolution. Now this is the conclusion of the previous Deus Ex episodes, so let's have a quick recap of those first. Invisible War my ass! Alright, let's get started. We start off and hey, it's a young Bob Page with the same voice actor from the first game. This almost makes me not care about the other characters now.
What do you mean, almost?
Human Revolution is a prequel to Deus Ex set 25 years before the original game. Now, this is cool bringing back Bob Page because he could be an interesting character, he's great as a villain, and I like the voice actor's performance. So naturally, this is all we're going to see of him. He's absent the entire rest of the game except for a kicker after the credits. Yeah, that's all you see. On another note, I'm surprised they show him with augmentations since he was one of the first people to receive nano augmentations in 2052. I always assumed these little extra wires were just a minimum mechanical element like Paul and JC Denton have. Not the old-fashioned ones, which were a bit more visible. But whatever, this intro is nothing but a Bob Page tease, and like the other games, full of dialogue where we won't know what's happening until we actually beat the game. Now I have a lot to say about this entire intro sequence, but I'm gonna restrain myself for now so we can understand what we're looking at. We start off playing Adam Jensen. He's an ex-cop that's been hired as chief of security for Seraph Industries, a company that makes augmentations, like we've seen in the other games. Augmentations are cybernetic enhancements that replace some of your body parts to restore functionality or give you new abilities. So you're escorting your head researcher girlfriend to a conference when, whoops, terrorists have attacked the building and you need to stop them. Well, you don't. Instead, they kick your ass 6 months to Sunday, and you're rushed to intensive care and given a truckload of cybernetic enhancements since you're a company favorite. So in other words, almost the same beginning as RoboCop, which is probably why this game takes place in Detroit. Months later, you've recovered and are going back to work because the company is under attack again. From there, more questions are raised about why the hell your company keeps getting attacked so much, and that sends you on a globe-trotting adventure like the other games. Although I feel like Montreal here shouldn't count, because the whole thing is just one big office building. This could be anywhere. Quick, can you spot the difference? I guess technically you get a brief skyline shot, but that's it. They're just including Montreal because that's where the game was developed. Well, they wouldn't be the first company to do that. There's more to the story, but before I go off the rails, let's look at the gameplay. I don't have too much to say here because it's pretty good. It feels like a refinement and more thought out. I'd say the game might even be a little harder, but it's harder in all the right ways. Look at this. This is the first level. In almost any other first-person shooter, you can take down these guys like they're balloon animals. Not here. They shoot back, bam, you're dead. People also detect you faster than the original, but hey, that's more true to life. My guns hurt, their guns hurt, and they didn't dumb down the RPG complexity. It's a winner. The only things I didn't like about the gameplay are all minor. Sometimes there are invisible edges you can't shoot through. Also, in the game you can get a social augmentation where you confront some characters and try to persuade them to do something. I didn't like this because your responses and their reactions feel a little random. Some people you're supposed to mix up compassionate and understanding responses with aggressive ones, and it felt more like going through the motions of a dialogue slot machine rather than a believable conversation. Look at these. These responses say practically the same thing. It's like being penalized for saying good day instead of how do you do. I'd rather just cut the crap and tell characters what I think and have them react like normal human beings. This feels a little unnatural and way hazier. Another thing is that the button for looting is a little too sensitive, and I found myself firing my gun half the time while looting a body like a manic kleptomaniac. Oh boy, he's got stuff! He's got stuff! And finally, I am sorry to say, I consider the body moving mechanics a downgrade from the former games. You can only limply drag them now. You can't pick them up, and you can't even open the dumpsters. This is a missed opportunity here, folks. But the game almost makes up for that by having takedown moves. You can walk up to people and take them out in one move. Now they have both lethal and non-lethal moves, but honestly, I found the non-lethal methods way more fun. We have chokeholds and some throws, but it's really the punching that stuck with me. They go a little overboard, but it's really great how you can see the saliva flying out of their mouth. And on top of all that, the game keeps calling me a merciful soul for beating the crap out of people. This isn't really what comes to mind when I think of the word mercy, but sure, I'll take it. 20 points. Some of the gameplay is a little more simplified, like removing area damage and leaning, but I don't feel like I'm being robbed the way I was with Invisible War, especially since combat is so fluid now. I give it a thumbs up. I wish I could say the same about the graphics. Now you might be thinking, what are you talking about? These graphics are great. And they are, if you're colorblind. I know this has been brought up a bunch elsewhere, but I seriously can't ignore this. This game is yellow, or yellow-orange, gold, whatever. That's just splitting hairs. The point is, it is tinted to hell and back. Actually, I'm not completely sure what's going on, because I tried turning post-processing off, and that helps some things, didn't do much for others. What I think is happening is the artist has taken a texture, added a small shade of yellow to that, then in many cases the mapper adds a yellow light to the level, then adds a yellow fog to the entire map on top of that. And then finally, the game adds a yellow tinting on top of that. I have seen the future and it is yellow. I tried using mods to correct this, but that just pushes things too far in the other direction. This is so invasive, I'm not sure it's possible to separate cleanly. Now, if you just look at this briefly, you might think this looks warm and nice, but no. It's one thing to tint a stylized photo, it's another thing to tint the hell out of a 30-hour game. Have you ever been out in the snow on a sunny day, then when you come back into a dark room, everything looks kind of purple? Well, if I play this game long enough, that happens to me slightly. Now, the director's cut did try to tone down the yellow tinting a bit, but then they replaced it with a muddy gray tint filter. What the hell? Why are art directors obsessed with tinting the hell out of everything? Do their eyes work differently than mine? I saw this nasty gray tint added recently to Fable Anniversary Edition also. The original looks better now. Why does this keep happening? I'm not against the color yellow. In fact, this game has a lot of street lamps at night. Yeah, that should be yellowish orange. But why everything? Tinting should be like a spice. Save it for a flashback sequence. Or hey, in the game when you get shot, the screen turns red. That's a good use of it. Tinting the entire game is like dumping 2 cups of nutmeg into your dish. You'll kill people. For anyone trying to defend this, what if every game did this? This game came out in 2011. Imagine if the industry decided yellow filters were the hot new thing and part of their artistic vision, so every game that year had a yellow filter slapped on it. You'd think the industry would have gone insane. So why should this game get a pass? Or hey, how about the best of both worlds and just give me an option to turn it off? Then everybody wins. Speaking of 2011 games, there was actually a color mod released for Battlefield 3 that restored the color to the game to make it more natural. Well, DICE started banning people for using the mod because they said it added too much color and gave people an unfair advantage. Then they changed their minds and said it was okay and would be adding an option to remove the color tinting. But then they changed their mind again, saying that tinted screens are the way of the future and will continue to ban people trying to change it. When I did the Deus Ex episode, I looked up various conspiracy theories, and one that came up was that there are secretly lizard people among us. Well, I don't know how lizard eyes work, but I think some of them have jobs as game art directors. Now, I normally don't devote so much time to the graphics, but Human Revolution is a special case. Once again, one of the strengths of the original Deus Ex is that it had some sci-fi elements, but most things felt very grounded and believable. Well, Invisible War tossed that out the window, being far into the future. But Human Revolution is a prequel, so it's even closer in feel to the present day than the original Deus Ex. Just kidding, it tosses that out the window too. It doesn't have flying hover robots, but it likes to exaggerate almost everything else. It's one thing to have outlandish fancy architecture in a corporate lobby or executive office, because they do that sort of thing sometimes. This gets a free pass. It's another thing to do this everywhere. Let's throw up a bunch of skyscrapers in Detroit with exotic, difficult to build, and clean architectures. Let's have hologram communicators that require no visible equipment and are so lifelike they pass for real, even though the originals look like modern day ones. Let's have jet propulsion airships, even though the original game only had planes and helicopters. Or hey, let's have a gigantic suspended techno city, making this the largest man-made structure in history by a large margin. Oh yeah, I'm sure we'll be finishing this up in what, 11 years now? You know, most of you watching this are gonna live to see 2027. It's not like Invisible War where you really need to do your sit-ups and eat your vegetables if you plan on making it that long. So yeah, 2027, right around the corner. But despite all this amazing technology to dazzle you, the real star of this game is the costume design. Now, the creators of Deus Ex probably watched The Matrix a few too many times, so it had a bit of an obsession with trench coats, but beyond that, its styles, like the rest of its looks, were pretty believable. Well, this game wasn't about to be known for that. So without further ado, let's start the Human Revolution fashion show.
That's right.
First up is our hero, Adam Jensen. With a neatly trimmed goatee and understated faux hawk, Adam is wearing a fashionable leather trench coat with heightened shoulder pads and additional leather strips with a paisley pattern. This look screams, I am the head of security, and is a popular look among former cops like himself. Next up is his girlfriend. Dr. Reed is all work and no play with her snap-up black leather pants, lace-patterned white leather doublet with pointed shoulders, hooped-up collar, and origami hairpiece. This look states that she is a serious researcher to be respected, which is good because she's testifying before Congress in a few hours. Now their boss, David Seraph, won't be setting any records this year as he's business first, but his origami vest is all the rage this year, and that combined with his gold pocket chain and gold engraved prosthetic arm keeps him looking sharp. And speaking of executives, let us not forget Zhao Yunru, the CEO of a major biotech company. Starting from her swirl pattern Athenian sandals cum high heels, to her queen bee ridged thorax dress, to her vine pattern corset and Elizabethan collar, her looks command authority, especially in China, a country known for its respect of women. But let's move on down and look at the Seraph industry workers themselves. From the gold-trimmed leather buckle shoes and nylon pants with puffy diamond-patterned sides, to the pleather pop-collar tuxedo with patterned polyester strips and matching silk neck scarf, this employee says not only do I live in the capital district from the Hunger Games, but also I am a productive employee ready for work. His coworker could very well be the yin to his yang, with his business casual pants with patterned polyester pockets and pleather long sleeve shirt with gold frond trimmings on his icosahedral cuffs. Yes, fashion is taking the world by storm, as variations on these looks can be found not only on most white-collar employees, but on people on the street, both in Detroit and around the world. Oh, did I say white-collar? I meant gold. So whether your clothes say I am a waiter at an S&M Club masquerade ball, or I am a disco king who is also attending a Mexican wedding, there is something for everyone. And last but certainly not least is leading worldwide newscaster Eliza Cassan. Reporting the news is serious business, and what could be more serious than a magenta Elizabethan collar, black neck collar with a lace top, flower-shaped hair braid, lingerie top with lace stockings, and a coattail jacket with high-heeled rubber boots. So, yeah, you might be noticing a pattern here. Hold that thought, because now we'll talk about the story. The story to Human Revolution might be even more knotted up than the original, but it's easier to follow if you work backwards. The Illuminati thinks mankind is becoming too powerful from augmentations, so they put a plan into play to sabotage Dr. Reed's discovery of allowing anyone to use augmentations without medication. That attack sets you on the trail of discovering what happened, which leads you back to this guy, the inventor of augmentations and ex-Illuminati. He's decided it's all a mistake and is using them to kill everyone instead so that everyone will hate augmentations and ban them. Also, there's a computer powered by screaming women. I got a little lost on that part. And that's the main plot. But Deus Ex games all have their character stories and larger themes, and this is where I start seeing some bumps in the road. I can get into the most fantastical story you can throw at me, but if the people in it don't act like actual people, then that kills it for me. Now, both the other Deus Ex games have plenty of questionable situations, but by and large, if you were to accept those as true, then the characters largely acted like real people would. The original was great at this. Invisible War was more like a Star Trek episode, but it basically worked. Well, with Human Revolution from the intro onward, I start getting a lot of red flags. First, Adam Jensen is a stoic, no-nonsense character, but we immediately get an overacted, exaggerated eye rolling, because that's what really serious and intense people like to do. Just like that. Next, we get a researcher who is easily in his 60s, giving off this extremely animated and humble body language to Dr. Reed, who is a woman in her early 30s dressed like a fashion model. Now, she does have a higher position than him at the company, but most men in their 60s tend to have a certain degree of self-respect that they're not going to behave like she is the Empress of Detroit, no matter what her job title is. I mean, he's still an important scientist at the company, but he's approaching her like a nervous intern. Oh wait, did I say he was acting humble? Well, this next guy is groveling before her. Look at this body language. Oh please, Dr. Reed, I do not deserve to stand in your glorious presence, but if this ever so humble servant may please have your attention for a single moment, it would be an honor I would never forget. Okay? This is all minor though, so let's keep going. We get our ass kicked and are back on the job after 6 months of recovery. I check in with my irritating IT guy who makes a fourth wall joke that doesn't even make sense within the context of the game and isn't funny.
About time. What happened? You get stuck in an air duct on the way over?
That's not good. Also, here we have a clear conflict of interest. My boss is calling me into work right away because there's a hostage situation. He'll even chastise me if I start taking too long.
You don't have time to mess around. Get to the helipad, or something seriously bad is gonna happen.
So there's some sense of urgency. Yet the game is dumping me into the largest narrative portion of the game so far. I can talk to people, check emails. There's tons of exposition here. So I'm being ripped out of the experience because the game is telling me to take my time, explore every inch of this place. But the story is telling me to hurry up and get to the hostages right away. In Deus Ex, you resolve the dangerous situation first, then you got to go chill out back at headquarters and get a bunch of narrative. This is just bad design. But hey, let's say I do talk to people. Everyone is talking to me like they know me personally.
Jensen, I knew the boss had an ace up his sleeve.
Adam? Welcome back.
Welcome back, Jensen.
Jensen, nice surprise.
Adam, are you here because of Milwaukee Junction?
Jensen? Adam, you're in today too?
Jensen. Goddamn, it's good to see you up and around so soon.
I'm wondering why this is because I don't seem like a very personable guy. So how do they know me? In Deus Ex, soldiers will talk to you, but you're essentially brothers in arms. Plus, you make a big splash by rescuing an agent and taking down a terrorist leader. So you're a rising star right from the get-go. These are just coworkers who don't even share the same department as me. I mean, hell, I've worked at corporate offices before. I never knew who the head of security was when I was there. But everyone is talking to me like they meet me every Friday night for poker. More people are friends with me than the nice lady at your office who brings in donuts for everyone. This world isn't natural. It's all about me. So this is taking me out of the experience a bit, but the first mission is where the bombs start falling. First, my IT guy is making snide comments even though I'm in a super dangerous situation and could be killed, and there are hostages that will die if I screw up. He doesn't seem to take this very seriously.
Pritchard, I'm in. The door worked just fine.
I'm happy for you.
Okay? Whatever. I save everyone and stop the bad guys. I'm a hero. So what does Detroit police have to say to me?
What the hell were you thinking, Jensen? You can't just blow a guy away like that. Did you forget about interrogation? You can't get information out of a corpse, idiot.
Oh, I'm sorry. You mean this guy? The one holding a gun to that lady's head? Oh, sure, it'd be nice to take him in for questioning, but how do I know this guy isn't hopped up on PCP? Or hey, he's a vet. Maybe he's having a PTSD attack right now. It's not like crazy veterans can be really dangerous or anything. Why should I gamble with her life and mine if I can end this right now?
Her blood.
That is justifiable homicide right there, people. He had a gun to her head, I had a clean shot, I took it. This wasn't a 13-year-old waving around a Nerf gun. No cop in the world is going to blame you for taking that shot. Except this one, apparently. You know, I've heard a great quote from a real cop that goes, "Lawyers have weeks to go over decisions we have seconds to make." This is really hurting the credibility.
You're the one who killed all the vandals. You're a goddamn murderer as far as I'm concerned.
What?
If I wasn't under orders not to, I'd slap you in jail until your ogs rusted right off your fucking corpse.
Oh, so that's two cops blaming me now. Yeah, vandals. You mean these guys? The ones shooting at the police? Oh yeah, I can totally believe Detroit PD is really sympathetic towards them. There were about 36 terrorists in the building. They had a bomb, 8 hostages, and already killed a worker. I think we have a communication problem here. You seem to think I shot teenagers spray painting the building. Every single terrorist was armed with a handgun or submachine gun. It wasn't even like Batman where there's a bunch of guys with baseball bats. I took out all the bad guys, defused a bomb, and saved all the hostages. The mayor of Detroit should be giving me a medal. Now the cops could come down hard on me for being reckless, because one man going in by himself totally is. But no cop would ever say what these guys do. It makes me wonder if the writer has ever actually talked to a police officer before, or even been to Detroit. This is demolishing the credibility for me. But whoa, once I get back, not only is every employee immediately informed of what went down, they're judging my tactics.
Jensen, is it true Sanders acted surprised when he heard about the hacker?
Better start practicing your stealth approach, unless you enjoy ramming your way through a problem.
Well, well. If it isn't Attila the Hun, fresh from the killing fields.
And I get even more cringeworthy dialogue than before.
I didn't risk my neck to have you lose it in a pile of CPUs and scuzzy adapters.
Well, look at you, using the big words. Don't think just because you hacked through the plant security system so fast that you're an expert on everything computer.
None of the other Deus Ex games made me cringe. And that's my first issue with the writing. It's very detailed and intricate, and a lot of it is interesting, but about half of it isn't even remotely believable human behavior. These are the lizard people.
You saved the hostages, didn't you, Jensen? Sounds cold, but it might have been better for us if they died.
Look at this. What's this? What's that hand behind the head gesture? Nobody does that unless they're trying to find their car keys. That's what anime characters do. They do that all the time. This is a prominent special interest group leader, but his body language is saying, "I am a bashful anime schoolboy." The game is loaded with crap like this. Take a look at this cop who is formerly on the SWAT team. And never mind that his hair makes him look like he's one of the Martians from Mars Attacks. Listen, if you're on the SWAT team in a major city like Detroit, you're a badass. That's pretty much the short and long of it. Now, he is having some PTSD issues because he shot a kid a couple of years ago, and that's understandable. That could crack a lot of people. But listen to him.
It's just so hard. What happened wasn't my fault. And you just walked out of my life. That's when everything went to shit, when you abandoned me. Adam, please. I need to hear you say it wasn't my fault. Adam,
I'm sorry, is he supposed to be a hard-ass Detroit cop with some trauma issues? Or is he auditioning for a new soap opera? Jesus, you wouldn't make it into the academy talking like that, let alone the SWAT team. And this happened 2 years ago, not this morning. Way too many people in this game just don't act real. It's like these debates about whether I did the right thing rescuing the hostages. This is artificial controversy. Not only would most of these people not be talking about the topic in the first place, but the game arbitrarily divides them up to make it look as though this is a real issue. It's all bullshit. When you talk to everyone, even random people on the street, about 95% of them are talking about augmentations. They're acting like David Seraph is their uncle. Everyone. I said the original Deus Ex was a little in your face about terrorism. Well, it has nothing on human revolution when it comes to augmentation. Rather than building up those world stories from the original, everything is centered on whatever you're doing at the time, and of course, augmentation. And that brings me to the other issue with the writing. Deus Ex is a game of themes. Each game has major and minor themes going on. You can debate which is which. Not Human Revolution. It has a few minor themes and one major theme. Cyborg, 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 cyborgs. Or transhumanism, same difference. If you were to remove one theme from any of the other Deus Ex games, you would still have a story. If you remove cyborgs from Human Revolution, you have no story. All you have then is a guy flying around to companies and shooting up security guards. Now, having one central theme as opposed to multiple large ones isn't necessarily a bad thing. On the contrary, but it means you better know what you're doing with that one theme. Well, my issue with Human Revolution is it never really makes the case why augmentation is a big deal within the world. They use sweeping generalities all the time, like how they're the next stage of human evolution and naturals don't have a chance, but don't give me much of a reason why.
Rhetoric. Always more rhetoric.
The only concrete reason I hear is that people with augs are taking jobs. But wait a minute, let's look at your augmentations. I have super speed, super strength, super vision, I'm a super hacker, and I have that socialization mod. Although I'm not very impressed with this social mod since it feels a little random when it helps me or not. Compare this to something like Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines, where if you persuade somebody, you change their mind. If augmented people had that kind of power, where it's almost like mind control, yeah, that would change society, but they never paint it anywhere near that extreme. But back to jobs. How many jobs would this actually apply to? Well, here's some top 10 jobs now. Let's have a look. Okay, sales. That social mod could help. However, I've seen plenty of salespeople with far more natural talent than this social mod ever adds. Plus, you have to weigh the benefits against the drawbacks of the customer getting a little creeped out talking to someone with an implant sticking out of their skull. So yeah, it might help some, but isn't a slam dunk. The world already has tons of people persons. Cashiers? No, not really. Office clerks? Not really. Food prep? No. Nurses? Not really. Bedside manner isn't as important as just being competent. Waiters? Same situation as sales. Could help, could creep people out. Customer service? Not really, it would be over the phone. Janitors? No. Material mover laborers? Yes, strength would help out there. Secretaries and administrative assistants? Not really. So I'm not seeing all these jobs being lost by augmentations, and the game doesn't like to talk about it either. The only ones that really come up are military special forces, athletes, prostitutes who have clients that have a preference for augmented girls, and anyone who works on a secret Arctic base. So that's what, still less than 1% of the job market? There are plenty of reasons to think the job market is gonna get worse. But rather than look at the real reasons the way Deus Ex might, Human Revolution just steers every conversation towards augmentations. And let's not forget the drawbacks of being augmented. In order to be an augmented individual, you have to 1, be able to afford them, as they're very expensive, 2, cut out your relevant body parts, and or have circuits inserted into your skull, and 3, take an anti-rejection drug for the rest of your life that is only produced by one company. Now take all these together and I don't see augmentations catching on like wildfire, especially the cutting off your arm and gouging out your eyes part. So realistically, this would be a drastically small percentage of the population. Even in Deus Ex, the vast majority of people are not augmented, maybe 5%, and most of them are involved with either the military or corporate security. So even by 2052, this is not an issue that affects most people. The only people augmentations would be great for would be the ones missing parts to begin with. So if you're a war vet and lost your legs to a landmine, hell yeah, augmentations are great. And I think the rest of society would be happy for you to see your functionality restored. But in Human Revolution, people are so divided over this issue, there are eventually riots in the street over it. Are you kidding me? Out of all the problems Detroit has to choose from, they settle on augmentations to riot over? How about not having water? You know, where the city is so mismanaged it keeps shutting off water to large numbers of residents that even the United Nations declared it a human rights violation? There's a reason RoboCop is still so relevant today. It's because Detroit is still going to hell. I mean, what do you want? Pollution, crime, poverty, unemployment, the economy? Take your pick, man. Human Revolution doesn't get it. This is supposed to be happening closest to the present out of all the games, yet it's one of the farthest from reality. This isn't some small plot hole that you only notice later. I was waiting the whole time for the game to tell me why augmentation is such a big deal in this world, and they couldn't explain it either. In one part of the game, you can even point blank ask a real estate broker, couldn't you just do your job without augmentations? And she straight up doesn't answer the question. I guess that's because the answer is yes, which kind of undermines the whole damn plot. I'm already throwing the game a bone and assuming augmentations work the way they do and all these capabilities are possible. I'm not even questioning that. But I'm supposed to suspend my disbelief about a plot that the game itself can't explain why it exists, so that I can further suspend my disbelief to talk to characters who don't act human so they can talk about the plot. The story just collapses under its own weight. It was a lot simpler, but the writing in Invisible War was stronger than this. So I'm less than thrilled with the story, but it does do a few things I like. First, I like how you have a problem in your firmware and are encouraged to get an update, which ends up being a really bad idea. I personally am kind of paranoid about software I have no control over if it changes, because it could be modified in the future in a way I don't want or simply not work. I mean, hell, the director's cut added that gray filter. This trend of less control is happening more and more with games and software, and I think it's a bad precedent. Because then you're screwed if something goes wrong. You can't just go back to the version that worked.
You should be offline!
So it was a nice touch seeing this sort of thing in the game. The game actually takes this to a more extreme level with the plot, because later a switch is activated to turn all people with augmentations into monstrous techno-zombies, where they're being forced to attack everyone else against their will. Okay, full disclosure, I'm definitely biased in favor of zombie survival games, and this part started feeling like a zombie game. So, not very Deus Ex-ish, but I like this part. You can make a whole side game on this concept. And the final thing I liked about the story, while I was rescuing the hostages, I stumbled across an article here. The oil crash of 2015? Rising economic power of China? Opening of oil reserves and emergency powers to restore order? Now this is what I want to see in a Deus Ex game. More predictive future stuff. Now, they obviously got things wrong on a 2015 oil crash, but for a 2011 game, this actually wasn't that bad a guess. In 2010, the US Joint Forces were warning of the possibility of a massive oil shortage starting 2015. Now, what ended up happening was fracking started to take off and opened up a bunch more oil that was previously inaccessible. So we've had a production boom since then, and the price of oil is low at the time of this video. The thing is though, this is temporary, and our conventional oil sources have been flat for about a decade now. So we've already gone through most of the good stuff, and are just beginning to scrape the barrel now to keep up. So why does any of this matter? Well, once the amount of oil we need is higher than what we can produce, the entire economy starts falling apart, and it mostly just keeps going to hell. I've been following oil for some time now because all of civilization depends on it. There's a lot of talk about alternative energy, but 92% of our transportation still comes from oil. So if a new power plant comes online, great. That still doesn't get food into the grocery store unless there's an electric infrastructure to support that. And we're decades behind where we need to be with that. The short version is, we can't support the number of people we have on Earth without cheap oil. We have essentially a slow apocalypse heading towards us. What unconventional sources like fracking have done is put that off a few years. Not a whole lot either. I'll be amazed if we're not seeing serious problems from this within a decade that could take a lifetime to recover from. After all, the military thought it was going to be 2015. I'm curious what they think now. But back to the point of this, I'm very impressed Human Revolution put this in here, and it was a good guess, even if it was wrong. Same goes for the look of the cars. Good guess, probably wrong. Let's talk about the music. It's not hard. Well, it's a little better and has a little more variety. Almost everything I said in the Invisible War episode applies here too. Except now we're adding a dash of Tron Legacy soundtrack to everything. Not too much, we don't want anything to really stand out, but now we have more and once again, we have no conversions to this game since we don't have any mod tools. But mobile game Deus Ex The Fall was released around the same time also. I haven't played it, and every single mention I've seen of this game says it's terrible. And I don't really have any reason to doubt that opinion. It's still yellow. So what do we make of this game? Well, I feel like all the decisions made in every Deus Ex game portray their own narrative. In Deus Ex, it's, we would like you to make decisions and think about things. In Invisible War, it was, we think you're kind of stupid. In Human Revolution, it's, we're fans of Deus Ex, but we'd rather be making a different game. Everything points to this. The anime overtones, the unbelievable character behavior, the story fixation on augmentations, the disregard for setting continuity, and the utterly flamboyant costume designs. It's not that the developers don't understand that they're making a prequel to a game that was grounded in reality, it's that they don't care. And honestly, I think the realism elements are holding them back. It's obvious to me that at least some of the developers don't actually want to be making a Deus Ex game. They want to be making something at least like a Metal Gear Solid game, and maybe something even more out there, like Ghost in the Shell or even Akira. And really, I think they should do it. I mean, I like futuristic airships, giant techno cities, and super stylized architecture. But they don't belong in a Deus Ex prequel. There's clearly rampant talent and creativity on the development team, but they don't know how to do reality, so why bother? I think they should go nuts. Maybe start off the game a little mundane, but by the end have an Akira biological madness apocalypse. Maybe there's an entire underground network of thousands of screaming women computers beneath the city. Maybe this is all part of summoning a giant tentacle monster god. But the game business being what it is, they're probably going to be tied to Deus Ex for some time to come and have to keep restraining themselves in an awkward symphony between attempting realism and wanting to escape it. Let's talk endings. Now, I thought there was plenty of room for improvement on the original's endings because they were so short and barely showed anything. Well, Human Revolution somehow managed to undercut them and has the worst endings out of all 3 games. All that happens is you get a voiceover by Jensen questioning if he did the right thing and a bunch of stock news footage with a yellow filter at it. This is pathetic. If I had that digitized effect, I could make these endings in a couple hours. And you can see how sophisticated my editing skills are. Look, game devs, here's what you do. If you need an ending but you're running out of time or budget and can't afford a cinematic, you grab your artist, who usually have less work towards the end of production anyway, and ask them to whip up some concept stills for you. Then you give us a slideshow showing what you wanted to happen and add voices to that. Maybe add some real cheap animations and scrolling effects while you're at it. Pangaea is destroyed! Oh no! There, I just gave you a better ending than this game has. And this is ending the Deus Ex videos for me, so where's Deus Ex going from here? Now, of course, the reality is Mankind Divided has been released, and will probably lead to another sequel also. I haven't played it yet, but my prediction is it'll be more of the same. I've read the plot is doubling down on augmentations and making parallels to current trending events, which is a total mistake. Deus Ex needs to look to the future, not the present. So I think the sequel still won't get it as far as the story, will continue to have lavish art design, and probably still have fun mechanics. So like this, an enjoyable game, but not really carrying the Deus Ex banner. So that's our current ending, but here are the endings I'd like to see instead. 1. Have Eidos Montreal kill Deus Ex and make some badass Ghost in the Shell or Akira inspired game instead. I think everyone will be happier for it. 2. Figure out a way for a side story game to work involving a techno-zombie apocalypse, because this sounds awesome. Alternately, make a stealth brawler game involving tons of takedowns and beating the crap out of everyone. These are both winners for me. 3. Have another studio make the true successor to Deus Ex. Try to make a game that will predict the future as best we can. See, there's a lot of things we can't predict, but there are some things we can totally predict, we just don't know when. You would almost want at least 2 writers for this. One to make a fun and interesting story, and wanted to do a ton of research from various experts in different fields to figure out what this world would look like and predict where we're going. So we would look at past data, predictive models, and trends to try our best to figure out what will be happening in 50 years with the economy, energy, technology, our environment, governments, and so on. Then really take our best educated guess as to what's on the horizon. Then package that world into a normal fun game, and you have a Deus Ex successor. The bottom line is life right now is totally not sustainable, and it's gonna change one way or another. So it would be great to get more of a glimpse of what that looks like. Awards! First award, King Midas Art Design. Despite having fun mechanics, this alone makes me not want to replay the game. You can't tint the pain away. Identity Crisis. This game wants to be something else. Now this isn't completely the developer's fault. Invisible War kind of screwed them by going complete sci-fi, so they couldn't make a realistic sequel. And prequels usually aren't the best, because unless you figure out a way to go in a completely different direction, you already know how it's gonna end up. Deus Ex is about world-changing events, and you can only change so much in a prequel. This game wants to be Metal Ghost in the Akira Yellow Blade Runner edition, and I think they should just ditch Deus Ex and go for that instead. And finally, further mutations required. Invisible War was a mutation from Deus Ex, and this is a different one. It's fun, but as far as I'm concerned, Deus Ex is dead.
Yeah, rip.
There's not enough room to make it into something as awesome anymore. The timeline is just too locked down now. It needs to be reborn in another IP or else completely rebooted. The tale of Adam Jensen is inherently limited. And that is the end of the Deus Ex episodes. Man, Spider-Bot and 3 Deus Exes. That's enough reality for me. Stay tuned for the next episode for something lighter, with colors, and a good ending. Nah! Oh, I almost forgot. Remember, shop smart, shop S-Mart.